And today I have a very special guest, Leo Wandersleb, founder of Wallet Scrutiny. It's a wallet, let's just call it a wallet auditing website. And we're going to get into the details of that. How are you doing, Leo?
Thanks, fine. Doing great here with a lot of work with wallet scrutiny. With the price rise, I think there is a lot of scammy wallets coming up that need to be reviewed.
That's great. I think we had a little bit of a lag on the startup of the stream. Let me just check real quick that it started all right. Yeah, so anyway, that's fine. We had a good intro there. So Ugly Old Goat is not going to be joining us today. I believe he's out doing whatever it is he does when he's not trading Bitcoin, probably fighting crime or something like that. So it's going to be just you and me, Leo, and I'm looking forward to it. So you're why don't you introduce yourself a little bit? I know you work or used to work for one of my favorite Bitcoin wallets, Mycelium. What are you up to these days?
Yeah, I still work for Mycelium. I'm the release manager, kind of the security guy. So I don't do most of the programming, but I do all of the review, or I review all the changes that go into the new releases. I do the release management and check that everything goes right there. So we get a product that's secure and safe to our users.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, and you do something that's actually really important, and most people don't even have the language or maybe even the context to understand what it is that you do. But one of the things that you do is you check that the downloads, that the downloadable software, you know, what people on Windows would see as an exe or an APK, or the software that's actually downloaded actually matches the code that's sort of published in the open source. When people say open source, I mean, this is basically what that means, right? Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, sure. So many people think like, okay, if something's open source, then it's automatically audited, and then the software is great and secure. And that makes a lot of assumptions that are unfortunately not true. So first of all, just because there is some code that claims to be a certain wallet doesn't mean that the wallet that you use, that you download from Google Play, was compiled from the source that is advertised as being open. So there are projects that refer to a repository, and in the repository there is a downloadable APK, a downloadable executable, and that's all they have on GitHub. And just because GitHub is a code hosting platform doesn't mean that everything that is there is open source or is actually code. So there's many ways of deceive the users that don't know exactly what's going on. And with Wallet Scrutiny, I try to shed some light on what are the details of the whole process, and I try to give very objective verdicts on all those wallet projects that I find on Google Play Store.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, so you do, one of the things that you do is, perhaps the main thing that you do is you check the integrity of, you compare basically the thing that people download with what you would get if you actually grab the code that's published on GitHub, if it was like the actual source code, and then compile it and so on. Here on your website, walletscrutiny.com, you have it's a beautiful website. You have all kinds of different ways of showing what you're doing. And if you go with all, I believe, or maybe reproducible, over here you have this amazing chart, which is audited.
Go to the second
0.
chart. Go to the second one. There is almost exactly the same like this one, but a page further down.
Okay, but this one's really good because it shows audited. It makes the point that you're not auditing the software. You're just testing whether their base marketing of open source is true, right? If any of these wallets claim to be open source but they're not reproducible from source, then they're not open source. And one of those is to some degree, I believe, Wallet of Satoshi. There's probably a few others, and the only reproducible ones right now are these 5, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there are some that pop in and out of the reproducible section, and there are certainly some that are more kind of on the reproducible side of things. So when I see, okay, they have maybe one extra line here and there, and I can review the 200 extra lines, and it's all empty lines basically, yeah, or just comments, yeah, then I can say, okay, that's technically something I would trust. If the code was audited, then I would trust the software, yeah, but I have to draw the line somewhere. So if I say, okay, that's okay because I can review it, then that's a slippery slope, and I end up arguing if that statement is dangerous or not. So I limit my audits to, is it reproducible? Can I get the exact same content when I compile it myself from the build instructions and the source code that is public on a public repository like GitHub? All of them are using GitHub except one, but whatever.
And maybe you can give us a little bit example of what the code actually looks like for people that have never really gone down this rabbit hole. I just kind of want to give people an introduction to the open source world as well.
What code looks like?
Yeah, so
well,
I'm gonna
can go to any GitHub repository, like from the first two sections. When you go to the green wallet, and then up there, there's
one of my
something called
favorites,
the repository, and there you see a folder structure. So here you see a folder structure, and if you look into the app folder, then that is the actual up. There is an app folder, and in the app folder, this is what the actual app is, and stuff from the other folders might be used there. But here in this, you can find the welcome screen, and which is the entry point for all that the app consists of, or the main entry point. And from there, you could dig through probably hundreds of thousands of lines of code and figure out what everything is doing there. But here is all the code, which when compiled produces the green wallet that you find in Google Play.
Right. And how do you check the integrity of that? I mean, I know that this is a difficult question, but are you using do you do like a hash of the APK compared to like the hash of the other APK which will be compiling, or what do you do to
It's slightly more complicated, but it's basically this. So if you know what a zip file is, then then an APK, an Android executable, is basically a zip file. And in that zip file, you have all the executable, all the resources, the images, the sounds and stuff, and the executable code, which does manage where you get when you click where. And it also has one folder where there's the signature of the file. So the signature is first a list of all the other files in the zip file, and then a signature over the hash of that list. It's a list of files with the hashes of all the files, and then a hash of that file, and that's what's the signature of the app. And of course, when that's inside the zip file, and I don't have the key to sign the app, I cannot reproduce the whole zip file. I only can reproduce everything except for the signature. So what I have to do is, I mean, there is different approaches, which are, I hope, all similar. There is reproducible.org, where they check it by compiling it, adding the signature folder to the compiled result, and checking the signature of that result. And if that matches, they consider the APK reproducible. What I do is I check if the list is complete in both ways. So there's no extra files, there's no missing files, and all the files are equal between the compiled version that I get and the version that I download from Google Play. So technically that should be the same result. And I have scripts for all that, of course. So when I see there's a new version of the green wallet, I run test sh and the file name. Then I wait 10 minutes, and after 10 minutes, I get the result with the full diff of those two results. And if that diff is only the signature, I say, okay, that's a verifiable, or that's a reproducible wallet, and I update the website with the latest update from the
Right.
app, because I track them over time. It's not like I give my thumbs
Right.
up
And
once
it's
and
done. Yeah, no.
then I wait for somebody to complain. No, I track it every day.
Nice, nice. That's great. I think that's really, really awesome work. It's a very valuable sort of data point about the quality of wallets. It doesn't mean that wallets that are not sort of on your green list, let's say, on your list of reproducible wallets, doesn't mean that they're malicious. Doesn't mean that they're inherently insecure. It means that there's no way to know whether they are or not because they're not actually open source. Do you have any, and it may be that they're fine, right? And it may be that there's
Right.
some small things that they have to do to get to the point where they're reproducible. Can you give us an example? Like, is there any wallet here on your website that we could go look at the source code that would be just kind of like a funny example of what not to do? Like maybe one of those that claim to be open source, but really they just have like the exe on GitHub or something just silly that can give people sort of some context compared to like the green wallet one that we just showed. That's one of the good ones, right?
Well, if you say good ones, that's why I have this audited section. Yeah,
right. One
it's
of the
like,
reproducible ones. Yeah,
transparent ones. Yeah.
sure.
So if they advertise that they are transparent, and then we find out that the source code contains something malicious or something obfuscated, yeah, then we would still have to reconsider this. But for that, we need an actual code review. But to your other point, there are, yesterday I reviewed a bunch of wallets that were not open source and that were that had their binaries obfuscated. So and many have some side loading. So the app itself is tiny and it contains nothing about Bitcoin. I have found one that had game engine, player 1, 2, 3, level 1 to 6, and all that stuff, and no mention of Bitcoin password, passphrase, mnemonic, anything. Yeah, and when you look at it, you see that, oh, it's just a web view, and it's loading the actual view to your wallet from a website. And I suppose that's also where your keys are stored then. Yeah. So that's that stuff. I had to decompile it for that because, of course, it was not an open source wallet one. Yeah, right. Among the open source wallets one, I have my biggest fight with Samurai because they are so edgy and all the time fighting with everybody, and they are
edgy, aren't they?
Yeah, and because they hide, and I mean, people say, okay, Satoshi Nakamoto is also hiding, and we don't know who it is, but it's different to be completely transparent and work as an anonymous developer on open source that others that put their name on the product or on the release as a binary, yeah, and Samurai tries to be both things. So they say, okay, we are anonymous. We don't tell you what's in our product. Trust us. And I don't think it's a good idea to trust anonymous people on the internet with your money. Right. So I strongly urge people to not put any money into the Samurai wallet unless they compiled it themselves. So if you want, it's not too difficult. Compiling the Samurai wallet should be quite straightforward. And I also demo it in that article you just showed. So you probably have to download the folder structure from GitHub, and then you have to have Java installed, and you run gradlu build or something like that. Sure. And then comes out an APK that you can drop onto your phone, and you have a Samurai wallet that you know was compiled from the source code.
From the source, right? Yeah, that's fantastic, and that's a really good example. Like that's one of the things that I like about this walletscrutiny.com project is that it reveals things that otherwise are very confusing. You know, like Wallet of Satoshi should be able to make their code reproducible if they're claiming to be open source. Like this isn't, you know, why would that be? Why like is there some big burden that they're that they have that keeps them from doing this, or what do you think's going on there? I mean, I don't want you to speculate. We don't want to, but like
No,
it shouldn't be
there's
that
good
difficult,
reasons.
right?
There's good reasons. One is that there are different frameworks that you can use to build any Android app. And some frameworks are easier to make reproducible, others are not so easy. So there's apps, or there's app frameworks that will compile your local desktop username into the APK. So if you compile it, then there's Juan everywhere. And when I compile it, there's Leo everywhere. And then we have a huge div, which is only the username of some files. But there's ways to get around that. So you have you have a setup where you have a standardized username where you compile it or you strip out the username. And there's ways to get there, but it's extra effort. And if you chose the wrong tools that didn't have any emphasis on reproducibility, then you get those issues. And so there is, for example, the Phoenix wallet, which was reproducible, and then they added a new database layer, which unfortunately is not reproducible. And now they are not reproducible anymore. And that's an issue that we had with Mycelium too. And we took some extra effort. So we compile it using disorderfs, which is a file system layer. It's a transparent file system layer where you can say, okay, show me this folder, but show it to me ordered alphabetically. Yeah. And when I do that and I compile the app in that ordered folder, then everything that says, give me all the images and now pack them all into one image, then they end up in the same order. If I do it on a different file system, which orders the images by date, then I might get them in a random order. Yeah. So these tools exist that make it reproducible, but they are a burden for the one who wants to build it. And as long as nobody cares, the providers don't have an incentive to care neither. They should, because it's not only about public auditability, it's also about internal auditability. So Phoenix now relies on the release manager not doing anything weird. So if somebody goes to the release manager's home and threatens him to do a certain change to the wallet and release that one instead, then he could do that, and even his team would not be able to tell that there's something weird going on. Yeah. So we at Mycelium have the protocol that we don't release anything to the production wallet which was not verified by a second engineer. So if somebody comes to my home and threatens me, then I will happily produce the release candidate, and then we will see how far it gets if my colleagues do their work. Yeah. And usually we have that routine since 2 years now. I would assume that they would not do an exception. And if I say, oh, yeah, it doesn't look weird, come on, hurry up, we're in a hurry. Yeah, I hope they would not just go through with it. Yeah. And I think that's the protocol that every wallet should have, and ideally with a public scrutiny. So ideally, wallets would make the hash of the wallet public, so that or the unsigned compilate public before they upload it to the Play Store, so that others can get prepared. And they need to have the source code, of course, to audit if there is nothing weird going on in the source code. And then they could have their machines ready to when there is a release that is not reproducible and that contains code that was not reviewed, they could sound the alarm, and ideally Google would unpublish an app that would not comply with that protocol. But I mean, we are far from that, and I mean, I can go more into detail.
Right. So yeah, I mean, we could go a lot further, and let's slow down a second, because that's a lot of information, and I think like I'm having a hard time catching up there. But so maybe other people are lost, but I think you laid it out quite well, and And first of all, one of the things you said there was the sort of protocol within the development team, which is like make sure at least one other team member verifies or views the code that's going to be put out into the public, because of this potential for a $5 wrench attack on the engineers that are publishing the code.
Exactly.
That's fantastic. Another thing that you said is that, and I think that's clear. And then the other thing that you said is that it may be that a wallet is being honest and they have good code, like let's say maybe like Samurai Wallet, maybe that they're honest and maybe they're doing good work, but there isn't a strong enough of an incentive for them to architect their wallet in such a way as to make it easily reproducible by the public, right? Which is what you're sort of trying to do, right? And it also may be that they're being dishonest, right? But it's like there's work that they're not putting in there.
I'm 100% convinced that Samurai is dishonest, and I think you had it on your screen, like the screenshot.
Yeah, it's on your
They
website.
claim it is verifiable, and I don't see anybody who's not. I mean, they claim it, but they don't show it. So it's a total joke.
Yeah, it's don't trust, verify, and the verification aspect here is not happening. It's not verifiable right now. They should pay attention to this, and hopefully maybe this will be another episode of us trying to get them to play ball. But
yeah, no, it won't happen.
Leo's not optimistic. So there you have it, folks. For those that are using Samurai Wallet, I would love to. Somebody says, "F word." I just recommend the Samurai Wallet for my subs. Yeah, so I mean that's the problem. So what about you only look at mobile phone wallets, right? Unfortunately, you haven't looked at, for example, the big competitor to Samurai Wallet, which is Wasabi Wallet.
I looked a bit into them. They at least claim to be reproducible. I don't remember if I did check on that, but because as you said, I only reviewed mobile wallets, and with that only the Android wallets. I didn't get there. It's a huge can of worms going onto the desktop, because on the desktop, for example, the best wallet, the most scrutinized wallet out there is Bitcoin Core, right? But Bitcoin Core is getting distributed by some 20, 30 channels, and each distribution channel has their fingers on it. Yeah, and there were cases where, for example, Luke Dash Jr. Implemented blacklisting in Bitcoin Core, and so those who used the Linux system that he was maintaining couldn't play Satoshi Dice because he has his issues with Satoshi Dice. Yeah, so. I mean, you can argue if he was right or not on that point, but it's certainly something that people were not expecting at that point. Yeah, they thought like, okay, I installed a Bitcoin Core version something. I get what is tagged on Bitcoin or in the Bitcoin GitHub repository as that version, and it's not. Yeah, so to have somebody to look at that and check what's going on is certainly something that's missing in many cases. Yeah, and I don't even know in many cases how it would work. So there is the Snap Store. The recommended way to install the Bitcoin Core wallet is through Snap, but you can also get it from Debian, Ubuntu, Knoppix, whatever Linux distribution you have. And for Windows, I don't know where you get it.
What's the best, let's say, for Windows users? What is the most, I guess, closest to source sort of form of what way to install the Bitcoin Core wallet?
Oh, I suppose if you go to bitcoin.org, you will find a Windows download, but I'm not using Windows since 20 years, so don't ask me. Not an expert on that. Yeah, but my point is that with Google, with the Play Store, I have one canonical repository which contains the binaries which I check. But with desktop, It's there's 20,
Right.
30, 50 operating systems. If I say, okay, I'll check only Windows, then there is still, I don't know how many that are active. Should I
Wow.
still check on Windows 95, or I don't know if there's different binaries for those, but whatever.
Right.
But there's many Linux distributions which have all their own packages where I would have to check if it contains the verified build, or if it contains some patched version, if it, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. So I could maybe check on one distribution, and distributions go on different architectures. So, or
Mhm.
is it for ARM, or is it for AMD, or is
Yeah, I
it
mean Linux
whatever?
would be like Linux would be a whole other rabbit hole. But like for Windows, like are you saying that, let's say in the case of Wasabi Wallet, there's a version of Wasabi Wallet for Windows 10 and then one for Windows 8 and Windows 7. Like, does anybody even use Windows 7 anymore? Probably not. Like Windows XP might still be around. Or do they just produce one Windows XA that the operating system just handles?
I check on their website right now, and there is a Windows 10 download next to a Mac OS 10.13, a Debian Ubuntu, and other
Right,
Linux. So I
right, right,
see 4 downloads, and I think it's just one Windows download.
right.
And I don't know if you have other sources. On Windows, it's quite typical that you go to the provider of the product, and that would be Wasabi Wallet IO, I guess, in this case.
Yeah,
But yeah, you know what happens when people go to want to go to Wasabi, they type in Wasabi, and then
yeah. They
whatever
end up
Google shows first, whichever pays most,
right.
and they go to some
Yeah.
random scammers and download it from there.
Right. Well,
And
they could go to your website and then go to from your website to the source website, assuming you don't get, man in the middle attacked, or somebody doesn't put like fake WhatsApp, wallet screening. So I mean, that's a problem that's beyond the scope of sort of what we're talking about. I get it. I get that that's an issue, but I mean, it sounds like there's only one Windows downloadable. I would love to see you look at Wasabi because it's one of the more popular wallets and it's one of the most sort of interesting wallets for privacy. I don't really
right,
know if their privacy is useful. I don't know if Samurai's wallet privacy is useful. I'd love to know, but I have no idea how to know.
I
Um,
hope they fight each other and expose the weaknesses of each
that's what
other.
they've been
That's
doing. Yeah, yeah, they have been
yeah.
doing that. Yeah, that's
So
kind of nice.
yeah, I kind of trust Wasabi, and I see that attacks against Wasabi are more about the change addresses, which never are claimed to be private.
Hmm.
And
Right.
it's certainly an
That,
interesting pro. I mean, it's important to have those projects and to have people
yeah.
use those projects to signal that we want privacy. If those
Mhm.
projects wouldn't have any users and nobody fighting for the one or the other, then what would be the point in
Mhm.
trying to get more privacy into Bitcoin?
Mhm. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, the competitive sort of drama between those two is a good thing, and I think it results in good things as long as there's some honest discussion and so on. But anyway, I don't want us to get too far down that drama, but I appreciate sort of the commentary so far. I think it's been pretty interesting. Um, I want to ask you a little bit more about open source as a whole, and like, but is there anything else you want to say about the wallet side of things?
The wallet scrutiny side of things. I mean, I could
Yeah.
give an outlook on what I see as a goal for the project, and
Mhm.
because there are two big issues with what I'm doing right now. Right now, I tell you, if I found the source code of the binary that you can download from Google Play, but maybe both of those showed up just half an hour ago, and maybe it's 100,000 lines of code changed. Yeah. And maybe that would take 3 weeks for security researchers to review. So my goal for wallet scrutiny is to get to incentives for wallet reviews so that actual security researchers look into those wallets. That would work through bug bounties, I guess. And the second thing is that the release cycle gets decelerated so that providers hopefully provide the source code a week before they provide the next update. And with that in place, I think we could have kind of secure wallets. But yeah,
Wonderful.
To your other point, what about open source?
Right. Well, I think that's great. Before we get to that, I think that's great. And it seems to me like you're trying to establish a standard of open source Bitcoin wallet security. And that's fantastic. We really need more energy going towards wallet scrutiny. I think there's obviously a lot of wallets that are not like I wouldn't get near. Let me just share one more time the huge amount of wallet options available out there just for mobile. And how many of these guys are just competing, like they're just paying for ads and catching noobs, like this is sort of
go
right?
further down, all the way down. Here they are scaled by user number, by download number. So here you see that the custodial are like the huge
dominating,
majority.
Right.
Yeah.
That's not a surprise. Okay. And then, well, I mean, that's interesting that the second biggest in a sense is the Bitcoin Core APK.
No. Bitcoin Core
this is
Bitcoin Core. Not on the list because it's not Android.
It's not
Android. There is a Bitcoin Core, but it's not.
But this is a full node. This is a full node implementation for Android, right?
Yeah, that's a tiny one. What you're looking now on is the Schildbach wallet, which is the first open source Android wallet, which is around like forever. And as it was always called Bitcoin Wallet, it got a ton of installs.
Right. Has it been updated? Like, is it actively developed? Okay.
And Andreas Schildbach is also the one of the best in providing reproducibility. He actually helped me to figure out how to do those things the right way. And he also once independently verified that mycelium is reproducible, but of course he only did that for one version and not with all the other 20 versions or whatever it is now.
Right. Well, that's very cool. Does this wallet is it a full node wallet in that it downloads the whole blockchain to a phone, or is it like pruned? Do you know about that?
It's not full node in the sense that it only downloads the transactions relevant to the wallet. Right. So what it does is it sends Bloom filters to full node, which tells the full node just about what it needs to know to give relevant transactions. And then it downloads those transactions that are most likely relevant. It might have some 0.1% false positives, which it discards. And so it keeps only the transactions around that are relevant to your balance and to your capability of sending Bitcoins.
Very cool. Very cool. All right. Well, that's great. I really appreciate you sort of giving us a tour of wallet scrutiny. Again, like, people check it out and donate to it, support it if you can in any way. This is a good standard, and we're going to need more ways of verifying the quality of wallets probably going forward, as the market kind of consolidates a little bit in this regard. Tell us what's your background with open source? How did you get into it?
I think I have to clarify a bit, because for wallet scrutiny, it's not about open source, it's about public source, and there's the difference with the licensing. Yeah, so many think that open source is about sharing the details about the inner workings of the app, but open source is more about the license. So when you say open source, you usually mean free and open source, which means free to modify, free to redistribute, and also free of charge. And those freedoms are not really necessary to audit what the wallet does. So for the sake of wallet scrutiny, I care only about the availability of the source code and not about the license, as long as the license allows me to reproduce it and to check on the binary that I get from Google Play. But open source is still very dear to my heart. I love open source. I use Linux since ages. I contributed to many open source projects, starting with as a game developer for Globulation 2, and it's totally outdated, but it was a fun project.
Cool.
And I think open source is a powerful tool to collaborate between many entities, and it's very honorable when wallets go that way. And the Schildbach wallet is definitely the basis for many other wallets. Unfortunately, for many scam wallets too. But a scammer is not really very concerned about the license. So if I want to scam people, I can get something like the source code of any or of many wallets by just decompiling the wallets. Most wallets are not obfuscated, so I can decompile them. I can make a modification. I can change the ID for the wallet and
too many ideas.
republish it under a different name. And that's happening. Right. Yeah.
Right.
So for that, the open source is not the issue. The open source is something that makes it a bit. I mean, what's the drawback of open sourcing your wallet? I think if it's so good, I mean, I don't see a big drawback to making your wallet open source, because you usually have the competence in your team, and nobody knows all the ins and outs of all the code base unless they put in a significant amount of work, which they would also contribute back to your project. So if I have it branded my Leo wallet and somebody else does his John wallet, and we do changes on the common code base, then we both profit from it. And I think that's a wonderful thing. And
right.
But
right. So the thing we got to look for here is which wallets have the most sort of engagement. And I guess if you were comparing, let's say there was 50 wallets, let's say there's just 5 wallets, and one of them had way more engagement than the other. Is there a way to like look at that? Like how would you go about looking whether an open source project actually has people looking at it? And because one of them might be a fork of the other and have 2 people looking at it, and that's the scam wallet, But if there's part of the theory, at least the way it's been sold to me, is like if the benefits of open source is as far as security goes. I mean, obviously from a collaboration perspective, you just sort of showcase it, but you just sort of talked about it. But as far as security goes, part of the benefit is that since everybody can look at it, then the more people look at it, the more they'll find bugs with it, and those will get fixed, and it'll get stronger over time. What do you make of that argument, and like how do you look at that?
It's totally true, because if I have, for example, a wallet usually has something like libraries in it. So if the Bitcoin library is used in 50 different wallets, then that library is probably very much reviewed, because all the other wallets that have edge cases where they look into different parts of that library will comment on weird stuff they find out, or they might have suggestions for changes, and others that work with that library will care about those changes. So you have many stakeholders that care about all the changes that get into those libraries. And with that, the library is quite secure because so many people care. And if it's just one wallet that does their own thing, I don't care much about the library code. I trust it mostly. But the stuff that goes around it is where I fear that scammy wallets would do their bad thing. I mean, they could use a modified version of the scammy or a scammy version of the library, but for that they would have to modify it. And if I can compare it, if I see they are actually using that library in version 5.3.1, I basically trust it. And I mean, I have to put my focus on something. Of course, somebody could inject something evil into the library, but if I want to search for something evil in a wallet that I suspect of doing something evil, my first focus will not be on the library, but on the custom stuff that they built around that library.
Right. Okay, and so I'm looking at GitHub right now. I think this is the green Android wallet again. Let's see. And you see, 16 branches, which is forks, I believe, of the wallet. Tags, I'm not sure exactly what this is. What are tags?
Okay, so branches, well, what is GitHub? GitHub shows Git repositories. Git is a version control system. So you can imagine, so you see a folder structure there. Mm-hmm. So if you have on your computer a folder, then you can go into that folder and say git init, git add all, and git commit, and then Git maintains a snapshot of that version where you just set those commands. And then you change something, you delete a file and you do git commit, and you edit a file, you do git commit. And every git commit is a new version of that whole folder structure. Yeah. And a tag is a label for one of those revisions. Those are called revisions. So if I want to see how did the folder look like a year ago, then I can look at the history and jump 1 year back and say, okay, git checkout version 3.2, and it jumps to the tag 3.2, and it shows me the folder exactly how it looked at the version 3.2 tag. And branches is when two people
hold on before we get to branches. So like with the tags, a tag is created basically when let me just zoom out a second. So basically somebody creates version 1, right? Let's say, and then a bunch of feedback comes in and issues are created, and then conversation happens, some code gets written, and then it gets submitted, and then eventually somebody says, okay, well, we've integrated all the stuff, tested it. Now we're going to grab all of that and compile or make it and publish it again as tag number 2. That's how the tags happen.
Yeah, you would make bug fixes, and so somebody makes a change that should fix the round buttons, and then that gets merged into the main branch. And at some point you say, okay, now that looks like something we should release to the public, like a bug fix release. 3.2.4 is a bug fix release. Yeah, 3 is a major release. 3.2 is a minor release, and 3.2.4 is a bug fix release. Like that's the 4th bug fix release in the 3.2 feature release. It's conventions. Not all the projects do it exactly like that. But what you do then is like, oh, we have no time to fix that bug now. We leave that for 3.2.5. And okay, we tag what we have now, 3.2.4, and we publish it. And then when we think we are ready for 3.2.5, when the next bug fix is in, then we tag it again with 3.2.5. So that's how it works. And you can add those tags after you have a commit message, because every change also has, fixed out of that bug. That's a commit message. And when you say, okay, yeah, let's release it, then you would create a tag for that. So you find it.
Who are you sending the commit? Who's sending the commit message to who?
Like every change. So when I have my folder and I do a change, I delete some files. Then I say git commit -m deleted 3 files, enter, and then deleted 3 files is the commit message. Right. And when I look at the history, and here you can look at, there's the link 859 commits. When you click on that, then you see all those commit messages. Yeah. And those commit messages are just something that the team internally uses to know why was the folder changed here. Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
And and the tags are more for finding versions quickly.
The different versions, right? Okay, so let's look at 2 key things of open source here with GitHub as a kind of way of looking at it. So one of them is issues, and then we'll go on to talk about pull requests. But obviously issues is kind of like the support section of open source as far as I can tell, right? So if you ever have an issue with a wallet and it's clearly, not your fault, then you can come in here and check if somebody already reported it. And if they have, maybe there's a solution. If they're not, then you can actually make like as a new user, as a fresh account, you can come in and usually post a new issue, right? And then somebody will probably look at it. Somebody like you, for example, that's maintaining sort of code, or like an engineer that's looking at a particular code base, they would come and look at that, and then maybe that'll get into the next version, right?
Right. So issues, you need just a GitHub account, or Wallet Scrutiny has its repository on GitLab. So if you want changes in Wallet Scrutiny, you can go there, open issues or pull requests, and then I would look into those, and hopefully others join the team, and we discuss what we want to change there.
Right. Okay. So yeah. So that would be as a user, and then like there's another role, which is the wallet maintainer, which would be you, who kind of oversees that everything seems to be what people say it is, right? Like you're not necessarily auditing the code, but you're just you're the guy that pushes the button, basically. Or what?
For Mycelium, I audit all the code.
You audit all the code. Okay. Right.
Yes, I go through every line of every release. And at some points, I might have to take shortcuts, because I think my salary would be better spent on a bug bounty. But somehow that's currently how it works. And I have to assume that my colleagues try to sneak in backdoors. I have to assume that libraries are dangerous. So whenever somebody adds the round button library, or the whatever nicer image loading library or stuff, I have to say, come on, it's a wallet. Why do we have to smoothly load images, which is a 30,000 lines of code library? And could we just keep that out, please? And it's those fights that I have to fight at times. And but yeah, I audit, and when I'm done with auditing, I hit the button to make a new release. We check if we can reproduce it, and then push it to Google Play.
Okay, that's very cool. Okay, and so actually, before we get to pull requests, is there any other sort of role within open source? Let's say we can maybe use GitHub as a proxy for what open source is. Any other sort of role? Like there's different powers, right? Like not everybody can like as a user, you can create a project, and then you would be kind of like the owner of that project, and you're sort of the guy that would push the commit button in that project. And then other people can come and sort of submit feedback in various ways, right? Is there any other sort of role or tier of power there?
Git is a distributed version control system, so it is not top down. Like before Git, there were centralized version control systems where where only the server maintainer would have everything. Maybe, and or at least the whole history and stuff. And with Git, if you clone a project, if you say Git clone Blockstream Green Android, then you get a full copy of the full history of all the changes that went into that project on your local computer. And or if you hit the fork button, so top right on GitHub, there's a fork button, then you get a copy of this minus the issues, minus the pull requests into your under your username. So if Blockstream deletes their repository, you have a copy. You can be your own boss there, and you are the maintainer there, and that's what the license gives you. The liberty to do that is what the open source license gives you. So if the source is only public but not open source, then you might not be allowed to publish that. You might only be allowed to read it. So Mycelium, for example, is not open source. Mycelium is public source. It is released under a Microsoft, what is it called? It's like Look Don't Touch license or something. So you can audit the code, but you cannot compete with the project with that. Mycelium released libraries as open source, but the wallet itself, the buttons and everything that's under a license that would not allow to run a clone.
To run a clone, okay. So you can fork it, but you can't
Yes.
legally compete with
if you put it on
Mycelium using the same code.
Right. If you could put it on Google Play, then the license would give Mycelium a leverage to get the competitor out of the Google Play Store.
Right. So
but
you're kind of like, from business perspective,
you don't really care about that.
Yeah, exactly. As a scammer, you don't care, but from a business perspective, it makes some sense to do that, because you don't want to just do all the work for your competitors, but you also get the open source aspect of it, which is people can actually audit the security of your wallet, right? That's cool.
Yeah, it has its negative side. I very much see it as a negative, because we don't get anybody interested into looking into our code, and we don't get anybody interested into adding new features, because they cannot use it for their own project.
Right.
So the libraries are not used by any other projects neither. So it's
interesting.
It's kind of not
kind of
really
a dead
helpful.
end, right?
Yeah, right. So
you're not interconnecting with other projects.
Right. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, so let's talk about pull requests. I'm gonna show that. What's a pull request?
So a pull request is a pull request is when a user wants to make a change, and he doesn't have a pull request might be within the project, and sorry, I'm getting off track, because in GitLab it's called merge request, and they are very much concerned about this being always a merge request and not a pull request. But it's semantics. Like if you want the Blockstream project to get the version that you have in your repository, then you make a pull request. You say, hey, Blockstream, pull my changes. Yeah, I made the buttons round. Yeah.
Right.
And then they get a pull request, and they say, oh, that code makes the buttons round. They review it, and I say, okay, that looks reasonable, but could you please document this, and could you please remove that? And then you do that in your repository. With that, the pull request gets updated automatically, and then they say, oh, that's nice, and they say accept, and then your changes get into the Blockstream version of the green Android and get merged. That's what the pull request is.
Gotcha. So this issue is an issue that I had, and it was endlessly and it's so frustrating to me with this wallet, because I do use Green Wallet. I really like it now, but it was like I couldn't paste the address into the enter address bar for like a month because of some version they pushed. And so I guess some person called Vincent Sopaloso, I'm not sure what his engagement or relationship with Green Wallet is, but he actually seems to have done a pull request to fix it, I guess. And it got closed, and I don't know exactly, but anyway, so that's one of the ways you contribute to open source, is if you know how to code, or if you can. Even I've seen some projects where you can do a pull request on like editorial stuff, right? So you just see a typo and you just say, hey, found a typo, right?
Yeah, and that can be very annoying. There's projects that I'm
sure it can be. Few things are more annoying.
Projects that try to incentivize you to there's a project where you can donate to certain open source repositories. You can say, oh, I want to donate $100 to Blockstream Green. And then whenever somebody makes a commit, then or a pull request that gets merged, then he gets 10% of the donations that went to that wallet. Yeah. And so people get ridiculous incentives to search for minor typos. Yeah.
Oh, no.
That then some maintainer who might be the bottleneck at the company has to review. Yeah. Or if you don't review it, then you're not engaging with the community and blah blah blah. Yeah. So it's a tough one, because people want to help, and
and they also want their money.
Be more distracting. Yeah.
Okay, that's funny. I mean, I'm sure there's all kinds of different things people have tried to incentivize open source engagement. Right now I'm just trying to like educate people about it, but I would love to brainstorm about that sometime. I don't know. So here's my idea, and you tell me how crazy I am. Maybe well, actually, is there anything else that we should look at in GitHub before we move on? That is like you think is like mission critical to understanding what's going on with open source or that
I
sort of
mean,
mentality.
if you want to see fun stuff, then you can go
Yes, I do.
into Insights Network.
Do you want to do screen share? Can you do that?
No, I'm on the phone.
All
But
right. So what am I doing?
so on the top right, you see an Insights button
Oh,
or
top right of
link
what website?
on GitHub.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna do screen share. Hang on.
Yeah.
All right. All right. What am I going for?
Right, Insight. Yeah, there's Insights. Yeah, you were all over it.
Insights. There we
yes.
go. Okay.
And then there is the network on the left.
Network.
Yeah. So Blockstream Green has rather recent commits on a handful of other repositories, and here you see the interaction between those. So if you scroll a bit to the left, then you can see, okay, there is the Vincenzo Palazzo repository, the Ivacaro, and so on repositories, and how the code gets merged from one repository to the other. And if you open that for a more popular open source project, then it can get quite wild.
Let's look at my
Mycelium. Probably not, but Schildbach would be. I don't know if Schildbach gets loaded. So if you go to the Schildbach wallet, on the left you see, the orange one, the first one.
Oh, the big one, the Bitcoin one, this guy.
Yeah, this one, yeah.
Okay. Source, all right. Yeah, so GitHub is kind of like a social network for dealing with all this stuff, right?
Top right, there's Insights.
Insights. Network.
Yeah.
Ooh, it's loading. Must be big. Get ready for this.
There's hundreds of forks of like all the shitcoins have. They need all a wallet, and so they clone.
So they fork those guys. These are the source. Find. This is the Genghis Khan of Bitcoin wallets and shitcoin wallets. the doer of the forks, the king forker.
Yeah. So here you see some busy action where code flows from one repository to the other in both ways. So so every line that goes between repositories is probably because of some pull request or because the maintainer of one repository is pulling changes from another repository. So there the lines merge into each other, and that's where you see the collaboration between those projects.
Oh, that's cool. And the size of the owners here, you see how each box has different sizes and it kind of shrinks over time. Does that mean anything, or is that just like weird?
No, if you scroll to the left, you will see that space is being used up by certain branches. It's just the graphics thing.
It's just how many, gotcha. It's how many branches are in a particular thing. Gotcha. Oh, this is really cool. I didn't know you could do this. So you can see the history of the interactions between different repos, and each one of these names is basically like a user profile, right? Like
that's a GitHub user profile. So you can click on them, and there you see a version of the folder in their repository, and see what changes they did. You can diff between those changes. So on GitHub, it's quite easy to see. Okay, what was added, what was removed there, and you can. If you find a pull request, then okay, there's.
That's cool.
I stare at pull request file changes most of the time. That's my work. So cool. We could look into that too, but I don't know if that's interesting for your watchers.
Yeah, I don't know either. Let's see. We have a bunch of questions.
Okay.
Let's just run through some questions real quick, I guess, and then I'll ask you my question. So, Let me just, I'll just read them out. So one question is, well, somebody, biology blogger says, sorry, but open source is nothing. We want free software. I think you agree with that. Says, I use Git all the time. I have nothing but some shell scripts and my website hosted there. Cool. You got a question here. What's the best way to transfer information from an old cell phone to a new cell phone? Okay, this is just like totally off topic, Eric. Happy to help you, Eric Porter. If you PM me on Twitter or on Telegram, Juan Galt, look me up, and I'm happy to talk to you about that. But that's totally off topic. Can other apps?
Stop. That's interesting because to transfer your wallet from one phone to the other, you would usually get your mnemonic and you would put that mnemonic on the other phone to restore your wallet.
Yeah, that's a bad idea.
Many people try to give advice in personal messages and try to get you into sharing your seed phrase with them. So this pulling somebody into a private channel is scary stuff. I can tell you at Mycelium, in all the I don't know 8-9 years that the project, no, it's not 9 years, that's 7 years probably. The 7 years that the project exists, we never once asked for a private key or a backup from any user. So users never need to share any private keys. If you get to a support forum and the first thing it asks is your 12 words, then expect that you got the wrong link. Yeah. So never ever share your private keys. Ask how to use them, but never put them anywhere into anything but a trusted Bitcoin wallet.
I 100% agree. I mean, I give people consulting and I help people figure their stuff out all the time. I'm certified by the Crypto Consortium, C4, Canadian sort of Bitcoin certification organization. So, but I mean, you're totally right. And I mean, not just to answer this question, I wouldn't even advise grabbing your seed from your old phone and putting it into the new phone, the new wallet, because now you're typing it in. So you're running it through a keyboard, you're exposing it to a computer. You're not, that's what you do when you're going to extract the coins. What you want to do is create a new wallet, generate a new seed on the new phone, and send the Bitcoin from one wallet to the other. That's the way to do it. But really, if you have more than a few $1,000s in a wallet on a mobile phone, you gotta, I would suggest go into buy a hardware wallet like Trezor, or probably just Trezor. And then go to the next level.
Yep.
That's what I would have told her basically.
It's not only because of the keyboard, because a good wallet would not have would not use the system keyboard. A good wallet would have a custom keyboard that's just buttons that cannot be scanned by any external software app. But the other issue is that if your phone is compromised for any reason, and you put it now onto a different phone, then your private keys are still exposed. So take the chance, create a new seed, because then it doesn't matter if your old phone was compromised.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of there's a bunch of different software in a phone, and wallets like Mycelium or Green Wallet, like they have all these sort of safeguards when they give you the seed, such that it's sort of safely sort of shown to you, right? Like for example, they ask you to verify the seed, but instead of you putting in all the words back into the phone, you'll put in like 5 out of 24, right? It's just to check that they're spaced out, or you'll be like, okay, what's word number 15? Just to check the integrity of the seed backup that you got, so that you don't end up giving all the data back into the phone if there's some sort of compromise and so on. I mean, right? What's the kind of so you generally don't want to avoid typing your seed into any kind of computer environment.
Yeah, ideally you expose it to as little software and as little hardware as possible. And ideally you have it on a hardware wallet, as you said. So yeah, totally agree with everything you said.
Cool. Here's another question. What source or tool do you use to verify whether open source is true or fake? I mean, you kind of went over that. I would point to the website, but he mentions QuantStamp provides that service. What do you think about that?
I don't know what QuantStamp is, but if you see a wallet, I mean, the way I work is that I either get from other people, hey, where is this and that wallet? And then I look into it, or I search Google Play Store for wallets that I don't have yet. And then I go through the description. And if in the description it says nothing about public source or open source, then I go to their website. And then if I don't find anything there, then I try to figure out if they claim to be custodial or non-custodial. But the more I work on the project, the more I tend to not give any positive aspect about projects that claim to be non-custodial, because if they are not transparent, why do I care if they claim to be custodial or not? How could I know? There's projects that are claiming to be non-custodial, but they are clearly custodial. When you send like
so you want to talk about Casa?
Casa is not the one that I was thinking of, and Casa has other issues. It's a very interesting case because they promote hardware wallets and they promote multi-signature with hardware wallets, and that's really the gold standard. Because if you expose your master seed to two wallets, then you basically decreased your security because you have not one point of failure but two, and then like many more points of failure. But if you expose it, if you have a different master seed in one hardware wallet than the other, and you have different brands from different providers, then you get extra security, because if one of those hardware wallets is compromised, then your coins are still secure if you have a 2 of 3 setup. But if you receive all the hardware wallets from Casa, because you're a diamond client, and that means they ship you one whenever you need one, and you use their closed source app as the third key and or the second key, and the third key is on their server anyway, then the multi-signature boils down to them having 2 keys anyway. So no. I find that very shady, although I think that Jameson Lobb has very good ideas and is a good speaker and presenter overall, but his product and how they marketed it leaves me to wonder if they should be trusted.
Right. I mean, I'm a big fan of Casa. I agree that the multi-signature approach they're trying to create is the gold standard. But yeah, I mean, you're right. Like you should probably buy the hardware wallets individually, separately, even if you're a diamond class sort of Casa user. And then, they should open source their wallet. And I've actually talked to them about that. And they're saying that it's something that they're talking about internally. And there's probably some, I don't know exactly what. There's always kind of like competitive sort of business concerns with going open source, I guess. But they probably don't want to get, as soon as they publish, they're going to get 20 forks,
about
right?
being public source. No, that's not an excuse. They can use a license that makes it public but not open.
There you go. Yeah, you're right.
Let me decompile it here. Let me see.
You're going to decompile Cas in front of us? That's awesome.
Yeah, I cannot share the screen, but let me see if I have it downloaded. DC.
Are you sure you can't share screen? I guess you can point your phone at the screen.
I would have to download.
Yeah,
I would have to
be
get
the
it
ugliest.
to my computer first.
Yeah,
but no, we can keep that for another day. But I'll look into it if they have their code obfuscated, because I introduced a new category here with obfuscated on Wallet Scrutiny, and I really want to move all those that are obfuscating their app over to the obfuscated category. And Casa is a good point to look into.
That's fantastic. Well, I'm looking forward to that. That's great. And obfuscation means they're actually trying to keep people from reading their code, right?
Yeah, exactly. So what happens is when you compile Java code into an app, then the app would contain most of the Java code anyway. But you can minify it. And minify means that if something means multi-key manager, then you have that long string multi-key manager, and the minifier would reduce that to A. And the next thing would be B, and the next thing would be C. And when you have only A, B, and C, then you have no idea what's going on.
You can't
Then
read
you have
anything.
to really dig deeper and figure out, okay, A is, well, I mean, if the class name, okay, it's a
I
bit
get it.
complicated,
No,
but
I get it. They just changed. They just remove the names from everything, and then just so you
remove
can't.
the comments,
It's
remove the
like,
names and everything,
yeah,
and you have the strings. And if you use really strong obfuscation, then you would
yeah.
not even have strings that you can
Wow.
find. And if you want to avoid people from being able to reconstruct it from your binary, then you
Right.
might load it when the wallet is running and the user has an account. Yeah. So then you might
Mm-hmm.
load code from a remote server while
Mm-hmm.
the app is running, and you made some checks that you're hopefully not on the computer of some security investigator. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, there's many ways of obfuscation, but the
Mm-hmm.
most basic and most used one is just the
Mm-hmm.
minification.
Right. That's fascinating. So obfuscation actually, and we're not even talking about open source wallets here. We're talking about like just an APK or a .exe file where you can open that up as an engineer. It's not that hard to open that. I basically unzip it, and then you can go look at the code and try to like just dig into it. And then if you found evidence of obfuscation, then that kind of, I mean, this is not to get legal, but like this is kind of demonstrating intent to hide what you're doing, right?
Yeah, but of course, I mean, on Twitter, I just asked, it, is it is it suspicious? Yeah, it's
Is it
there's
suspicious?
people that say, oh, I don't want people to create a clone of my wallet. Of course,
Right.
if it's obfuscated, I can still compile it. I still get the wallet, and I can easily change the ID of the wallet, and probably I will find out where the receive address gets generated, and I put my own evil receive address in, and
Mm-hmm.
then everybody that tries to send bitcoins to that wallet will send it to my wallet. Yeah, so
Mm-hmm.
I could still clone it and put in some malicious stuff, but
Mm-hmm.
of course the other aspect is that I would not be able to use it as a starting block for a legit business. I cannot just make a better Casa wallet
Mm-hmm.
from a decompiled version of the Casa wallet. But
Mm-hmm.
neither can I if it's open source or public source without the open license. Yeah, if the
Right.
license says you can use it for anything that's not Bitcoin, yeah, then yeah, I'm stuck. I cannot
Well,
compete
you,
with them.
you you can, but you are legally liable to be sued or something like that, or if you uploaded it, that you might get
You
taken
may
down,
not
right?
have
Like
the
there's
chance.
some
Yeah.
legal recourse there.
Exactly. So
Right. Cool.
that's
I think
not
I
nice
think
to
that
write.
that kind of covers that. Sweet. So I think we don't have any more questions. So let me throw my question at you. I wanted to write a book about the Bitcoin Cash fork war, and during those times, I was doing reporting on the matter and tweeting and engaging, and I did a bunch of interviews, and I have a variety of documents with a bunch of sources and links and sort of I have basically the foundation of a book
Yeah.
for the events that happened. And I was thinking, well, maybe I should write the book. But then I also got to thinking, well, maybe I should just publish this on GitHub in some way and try to like turn this into a collaborative effort. Um,
Andreas Antonopoulos is doing very great with that approach.
mhm,
So his books are all under a Creative Commons license, I assume,
mhm,
and he gets a lot of help from people, especially I think with the translations.
mhm.
And you can read them on GitHub or on some readers, I think. And but people still buy them, and they want to support his work, and I think that's a great thing to do. And if you are brave to try it out, then I'm pretty sure you will not regret it.
Cool. Well, that's good encouragement, man. Appreciate that. Sweet. So maybe I should just do it. So I guess I should just go and look at the way Antonopoulos does it and try and follow his example. He's certainly prolific.
You I don't know. He's probably not interested in Bitcoin Cash.
No, and I'm not interested in Bitcoin Cash either. I just want to document the history because I think it's important that we get a grip on what happened. I certainly have a perspective and I have plenty of evidence and sources to back up my opinion on it. But, they also have like a counter narrative, right? Like they put out like this YouTube video documentary thing and it's kind of a mess. And so I think it'd be really kind of interesting. The problem is it would be like rehashing, like beating a dead horse to some degree. Like if you go look at the Bitcoin Cash price, it's like down 98.7%, right? It's just like, what's the point, right? But I think historically it was a real good stress test of Bitcoin. And it really shows some of its powers. So I think it's still kind of interesting.
Bitcoin Cash is still top 10, top 7.
I mean, that just doesn't speak very well for the competition. Coin market cap. Let's look at coin market cap. Yeah, what that says is that market capitalization as a ranking is, mediocre at best, and also that the competition is not particularly strong. I mean, it's impressive that Ethereum has basically, it has half the volume, a fifth of the market cap. There's other metrics where it does better than Bitcoin. But yeah, and Chainlink. The guy was showing me Chainlink. It's like, man, by the point, historically speaking, by the point something gets to number 6, it's peaked. How many people how many coins have been at number 6 market cap ranking? Thousands, and they have been forgotten.
Yeah, I find it interesting that that CoinMarketCap or those projects usually don't show how much it is down from its all-time high. Yeah,
right. Right. That would be a good metric to add there, but then that would be kind of.
They'll remove them when they're dead. So.
And they used to not remove them. Yeah, no, back in the day, like maybe 3 years ago, if you went to like the last page of CoinMarketCap, you would see like just thousands of wallets of coins, and their price would be question mark.
Okay.
It wouldn't be 0, it would be question mark, which to me is the equivalent of passing on into the afterlife, and they're in limbo. They're like atoning for their sins. CoinGecko does?
That's I know they have some coins at 0 Bitcoin valuation.
Right. So that's the graveyard of coins. So somebody should create a coin graveyard or something. I think there might be. Oh yeah, deadcoins.com, right? Dead coins.
Yeah, but that's not very well maintained.
Right.
I think
unfortunately,
you can throw anything at it. So yeah.
Well, that's very cool. So yeah. I mean, and so what websites are a good example of things you can make. You can sort of open source in a sense. Like Jameson Lopp's website is a good example of like an open source website. I think it's lopp.com is an open source website where people can pull requests, like suggest things, do issues.
Lopp.net it is. Lopp.net it is.
Lopp.net, sorry, .lopp.net. It's a good example of it. What are other cool things that you've seen that people have open sourced?
Like content, websites.
It's usually that.
I don't know.
Right? Those kind of things. Yeah, it's usually information.
I'm on the edge to make wallet scrutiny fully open. Like, I don't know. I said, okay, how I work and everything around the reviews is open, but my actual reviews are not open. So if you want to make a shitcoin version of it or whatever, then you can start from there. But I think I should just make it everything under a free license.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. I mean, shitcoins they're gonna shitcoin, you know, like there's pretty much not a whole lot we can do to stop them except just point out their nonsense. But at least I much rather people do like get into altcoins and don't not get hacked. They just learn their lesson through their own, you know, risk taking, and learn the lessons that many of us have learned through their own risk taking. But you know, we don't want them to get hacked on top of that, because that just gives everybody a bad impression. So yeah, cool. Well, that's all I have. Is there anything else you want to add? Maybe you know, you guys can find them on Twitter at Leo Wandersleb, on Twitter, and obviously walletscrutiny.com.
Right. So yeah, it's there's one more thing that I tried to offer through Wallet Scrutiny, and that is the wallet support. It's apparently not received at what it was meant. So people use it to chat about wallet scrutiny there, but the idea is to help people that want to migrate from one wallet to the other, or that have questions like that. So I have a tiny team of people that would be ready to help if you have any issues with any wallet. And but so far we didn't have many takers for that, and I think it's important to have to establish something where people can go to if the wallet that you have doesn't answer to your questions, or if you're stuck with anything.
Yeah, that's great, because usually you end up asking on Reddit and some random Redditor will be helping you or whatever. Like you end up stuck. This is great, actually.
You get
this is
direct messages, and then you end up with figuring out who is the scammer and what sneaky way the thing he tries you to do is trying to get at your coins.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, you don't want to do that. I mean, I offer support if you go to beervault.com, but maybe I can help you guys as well. Yeah, I mean, I do consulting. I help people stuff. I mean, we even do like lost, like broken wallet recovery sometimes, where you know you forgot your password, and then we got to brute force it, and then we go and brute force your wallet, and like we've done a couple of those. But yeah,
cool.
No, it's tricky, right? Because yeah, you have to be like, trust me to talk to you, and I'm not gonna, I'm putting my reputation at stake and on the line. So
yeah, that's where you have to be, where you may not be anonymous.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
This idea that you could provide a wallet and then be anonymous is just ridiculous. But there's those wallets that do so.
Yeah, exactly. No, like if I screw anybody, you'll hear about it. I mean, you can go shit post on Twitter. You can tell everybody online, and my brand Juan Galt will be done. So
yeah, so whoever trusts you with his files, and then you empty them, you should get into trouble. That's a hot topic. That's why my support is not asking for any private keys. I try to keep it that way. But maybe I can recommend your service for those recoveries.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to help if we can, because most of the time you can't. But I just want to show also, since we're on the topic, Crypto Consortium, which this is the certification company that actually Andres Antonopoulos had a role in creating these certifications. Have you heard of these guys, Crypto Consortium?
Not really. I'm not a big fan of certifications.
Sure.
And although I was thinking of doing something like certifications with wallet screening.
Yeah, like that's kind of where you're probably, you could end up. So this, you might want to look at this, because this was created in part by Antonopoulos and the CEO, the seat security engineer of this guy, Michael Perklin. He worked with Shapeshift for a while, Pamela Morgan. I mean, this is top names, right? And I can personally verify this. Like, I was there when it was created. They've had all kinds of advisors. Like, these guys are not maximalists, all of them, but some of them are, right? And Peter Thiel was hanging out. This came out of Toronto. sort of the era that I was in Toronto as well. And
Yeah.
they created a bunch of open standards for checking, you know, the integrity of a crypto system, for consulting, right? So the certification that I have is the CBP, Bitcoin Professional, which basically says that I have committed to the public and to C4 to not scam people for what that's
okay.
worth. and yeah, this is for accounts. You know, there you go, right?
So they do KYC, and you pay $1,000, and then.
No, they don't do KYC. They don't do KYC. I do pay something. It's $30, and then they do a test. They do a test of knowledge. So it's a pretty serious test that you have to take, and then if you pass it, you get their certification. So you can't be ignorant. You can be knowledgeable and malicious. You can get away with that, but you can't be ignorant. You actually have to know your stuff.
Okay, but then.
But you're right. They could KYC you as well
for a fake figure.
Yeah, they could totally. They probably should offer like a KYC option. You're right.
Yeah. So if it's about being trustworthy, then
right. Why not? Right.
It should not be that easy. $30, and I'm approved by them to be a good guy.
No, but it's not just $30. You have like the test is serious, and then you have like 20 minutes to answer it, and they scramble the questions. So it's not trivial to cheat them. But if you know enough, yeah, you could get a certification.
You think I would pass it?
You'd definitely pass it. You'd definitely pass it.
So if I make up some figure, some fake name, and then get the certificate for fake name,
you could pass it.
I could sell that for scammers. I would even get around scamming myself.
Oh wow. You just broke C4.
Yeah, that's why you shouldn't trust just the certificate.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, they should get KYC'd. I agree. Hopefully they're listening and they'll add that. Maybe I'll suggest that to them. There you go. Changing the world one YouTube video at a time. Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's all we have, and we got about 11 people watching right now. We peaked at 20, which is great. More people will come later on and watch this. But thanks for your time, Leo. I appreciate you coming on. I think this is stuff that you're doing.
It was a fun session.
Yeah, I agree with you. Have fun.
See you. Cool. Bye.
I'm gonna end the live stream right now. You can stay on. All right.
Okay.
Bye, guys. Thanks for watching. Share this if this was useful or insightful. Let people